Oh no, no. My mother culture is not even a little bit like that. Well, hey, it's been a minute. Welcome back to The Commonplace. I am Autumn. If you've forgotten, that is fine. I haven't been here in forever because I am learning over and over again that homemaking and home education is not for wimps. You know, it takes a lot of time. And so we are back. We're going to be catching up. That's what we're doing today. If you are keeping up with the podcast, which you can find all the links to things I mentioned down below, as I'm sure you YouTuber know, we are on principles 11 and 12 starting next week, but we have not caught up over here, and that's what we're going to do today. So we're kind of going to wrap 7 and 8 together. If you haven't listened to those episodes, you definitely should. And as you know from the intro, I am talking about mother culture, but why? That's the thing for moms. And aren't we talking about principles of education this year? Well, we are. However, principles 7 and 8 touch on two instruments of a Mason pedagogy. One being discipline, education is a discipline, and the next one being education is a life. And basically that means habits and living ideas. And I think that mother culture is a habit that is necessary and fundamental for any mom. Homeschooling or not, all moms should be doing this. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to do a little bit of a high overview, as I love to do, but then I'm going to talk about ways to get it done. Because guess what? My mother culture does not look anything like that opener. It is almost never quiet. My children are almost always present, and it just fits in the ordinary parts of my day. So I'm gonna give you some tips about how you can make mother culture happen. But first, we need to know what mother culture is, because unfortunately on the internet, there's a lot called mother culture that is not. I'm looking at you, Instagram, always. Now, let's start with, when did Mason talk about mother culture? What did she have to say about it? That seems like a good starting place, and I'm going to tell you she never talked about it. This is not a Mason thing. It fits within her philosophy, within her principles. It's totally, obviously a Mason idea, but the first place that we get mother culture is from a Parents Review article, which is the magazine that Mason did edit, but she did not write this article. It's called Mother Culture, and it's written by someone that we only know of as A. And in it, she basically says that moms are people too, that they need to continue the habit of feeding their minds living ideas. And this was something she thought you could do in 30 minutes a day by reading a book. So there's your habit, and that's how you're getting your living ideas. It's principles 7 and 8. Now, what's interesting is on the internet, there is an entire world called mother culture that is more actually like the classical idea of leisure. They're humanizing ideas, maybe gardening or baking bread or going on hikes, different things like that, but they don't actually count as mother culture. And I say that as someone who once in an interview, which I'll link below because I had a great time talking about mother culture, I actually answered the question, like, could those things be mother culture? As, sure, I could see the living principle behind them. But after thinking about it more and studying more, I think no. Mother culture is actually supposed to be a time in which your mind is engaged with challenging ideas, beautiful ideas, noble ideas. You're changing the contours of your inner thought life. You're contemplating beauty. You're asking yourself about virtue and vice and the effects of it in life. So it's an active sort of learning with books. These other things we like doing, they fall more in the classical idea of leisure, where it's almost a receptive type of learning. You don't set out with a quantifiable objective towards the end of what you're doing. Instead, you're just being changed by the things you're doing. You know, the idea that what we repeatedly do does things to us. So I'm gonna say, put a pin in all the other activities, call that leisure, and also come join us in Patreon. That's what we've been talking about this month, the summer of Lady Leisure. Plug for Patreon, come join us. It's a ton of fun. It's $7 a month, which is like a fancy coffee or half of a book, and you can come and learn all of the things that we like to talk about in there. And so you get 30 minutes. And for some people, 30 minutes is gonna be a lot to start reading books. And for other people, 30 minutes is a very good fence because it keeps you from tipping into my personal problem, the quote, virtue of the intellectual life, which is really just book gluttony. If you can't put your book down and take care of the needs right in front of you with your children, you're actually not pursuing virtue. So it's 30 minutes a day, and here's why that's great. Number one, it's doable during normal mom life. Every mom has 30 minutes in a day, even if you have to break it up into smaller chunks. And if you tell me that you don't have time to read books, I will ask you, what did you see on Instagram today? Because if you had time to be on Instagram, you totally had time to read a book. The second thing is that within 30 minutes, you can actually make good progress in good books, but you don't always have to read the great classic books. Here's a tip already. Find books that you are very excited to read. Does it have to be Homer to start out? No. But do you like Jane Austen? Sure. Or my personal favorite right now is Middlemarch by George Eliot. Highly recommend. It's hilarious and wonderful, although I think it's going to be kind of sad by the end. Now that's mother culture. That's kind of the basic idea. Go listen to my other interview to hear me talk about it at length. Go look on my Patreon, go look on the podcast. This has kind of worked its way in a lot of different areas so far. But now we're just gonna talk about tips. So first one, which actually pull from the article Mother Culture itself, is to have multiple books going at once. Not too many. She says 3. I think 5 works. However, the idea is that you have a book for your mood. You kind of don't know what you want to wear until you wake up. You also don't really know what you want to read until you get there. So have a book that's maybe a deep, hard book that you're working through. Have one that's a novel that you're really enjoying, and have maybe something practical that's kind of like an easy medium read. Something you can pick up, take something from, and keep going. I may have heard one of my kids, because this is common, Mom. Second thing, break that 30 minutes up into smaller chunks. I think I already said this one, but find 10 minutes here, find 10 minutes there, and just go with it. It will add up. Basically, anytime you're thinking about picking up your phone, think about picking up your book, which means next tip, have books in multiple places. I have a book in my bag, I have a book on my nightstand, I have books on my bookshelf, I have books on my side tables, I have books on top of my piano, I have a book in the car. Basically, if there's a book nearby, I can grab it. This is a tip about all habits. Make the habit you want really easy to do. Put books that you're interested in everywhere. Make the habit you don't want really difficult. Hide your phone in the beginning of the day. Don't pull it out of your purse unless you need to call or text someone. That kind of idea. Now, a next tip, which I got from another person, is to make a hot cup of coffee, a hot cup of tea, hot chocolate, whatever your thing is, and use that as the signal for your kids in order to get this time block. So if your kid's a little bit older and you could have them play around you or maybe in the backyard, depending on their ages, what you can do is fill up your cup and say, hey, Mom's gonna read. When my cup is empty, I will be available to talk to you. And so they can come up and check your cup without having to be like, hey Mom, you ready? Is it almost 30 minutes? Mom, can I talk to you about something really fast? You just know, look in my cup. I've been working on this one with my kids for a while. We are still not there, but we're gonna get there. Like, I really think we're gonna get there. Okay, another one is to actually read while you are cooking or folding laundry or anything where your mind can be kind of free while your hands are busy. I actually keep a poetry book near my coffee maker, so as I'm making coffee, I can read some poems. Poems don't take very long, but they give you plenty to think about during the day. You can read the same poem every morning, and guess what? You'll probably memorize it too, which is really good as well. While I cook, if I'm like stirring stuff or sauteing or waiting for something to happen, mixing a lot of stuff in the mixer, I'll just grab my book and you know what? Half a page is half a page, and that's worthwhile too. Next thing is to consider audiobooks. So you've got some people who are like, that doesn't count, it's not reading. Well, they're very grumpy, and also they are on the wrong side of history because most of history included stories being told audibly. You had to listen to them. The great bards would come and perform a story for you and to commit it to memory if you wanted to remember it. Audiobooks totally count. Pop in an earbud while you're cleaning or while your kids are playing on the playground or you're watching soccer practice and just enjoy your book that way. That totally counts and also trains your habit of attention. So double points. So another one in the vein of audiobooks is just read your book out loud to your kids. If your kids want to be on top of you, which mine often do, or they want to be right next to you, just start reading out loud. I read my kids The Real Pilgrim's Progress when I was reading it and was shocked to find how much they understood and how much they enjoyed it. But also, I got my time in because I just read it out loud. We can all listen to great stories. It doesn't have to just be for adults. But I think you know that already. Now, the fun thing about mother culture is that it's your time to learn, and learning takes time because you have to form relationships with the things with which you are interacting. So my favorite thing to remember about mother culture is that you are not reading to get a quick thing out of it. You are not trying to read, regurgitate. In fact, reading and regurgitating just sounds like public school. I said it, but it's true. We are reading to be formed, to be changed, and ideas do take time. They're actually kind of lively little things. They have to take time to plant, to grow roots, to actually spring forth and then bear fruit. Ideas take time, so be patient with yourself. If you're struggling through a book or you've read a book and you're like, really didn't feel too much yet, really didn't change anything about my life, give it time because ideas take time. That's why we educate over the course of a child's life and not in the course of 1 year. Okay, and then the last thing is just to remember what your real life is. Moms have the temptation, it happens to all of us, to think that their real life, their real selves happen and exist in the margins of their time. Whether that be before their kids wake up, or after their kids go to bed, or maybe when they just get a few hours away. And it's easy to think that things they do in that time is the real them. But actually, your real life is what's happening in front of you. It's trying to read when a kid is climbing on you. It's trying to read while you are sitting outside of a doctor's appointment. It's trying to read with a cheerful attitude when you are interrupted 42 times because they don't yet look in the cup to see if your cup is empty. That is your real life, and that is where you are growing in virtue, where God is sanctifying you, and where you are learning to love the right things in the right way. And so I just want to encourage you to keep that in mind as you maybe start this habit, or you find this habit's a little difficult to implement, and you run into those common mom tips that I've already mentioned that you're gonna need, and that you just enjoy learning how to do it well. Now, I'm gonna be back hopefully within 2 weeks and not 2 months, and we're gonna keep moving through the principles, catch up on 9 and 10. Again, on the podcast next week, we are doing principles 11 and 12. The Commonplace is the name of the podcast. Please come find me. I would love for you to be there. I love working on the podcast. I also have the Patreon, like I mentioned. In there, we have so much fun. We have a monthly Q&A call where people ask me questions directly and I answer them. They can watch in real time, ask me follow-up questions, and then I do a bonus monthly mini-sode, which I call minis, but usually end up being about the same length as a podcast episode, on all sorts of classical ideas and where they intersect with your ordinary life. So again, I would love to have you come join over there. It is $7 a month, and it is a lot of fun. You can find me on Instagram. I'm there, but I don't spend much time there because I do think that if you are really trying to pursue goodness, truth, and beauty, you don't look for it on the internet. All right, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.